national average. When you've gotten ourselves in the hole that we're in, that's not good enough. We can do far better than that. It will change the economic structure of Georgia, led by tax reform. And the first cut in the income tax does not need to come from shifting it to sales tax. It needs to be by reducing the size of state government. And I know it can be done, it has to be done, if we're going to turn this state around from that side. The second E, which is totally connected to the economy, is education. You can trace the decline in public education with the centralization of public education into the state houses to begin with, and now into Washington, D.C. Again, 40, 50 years ago, the further it's gotten away from the local communities, the more it's declined over the years, where we're spending far more money on it. Last 10 years in Georgia, we've doubled the increase in education spending has been double the population growth in the schools itself. And where's it gotten us? It's gotten us into more of a centralized bureaucracy in Atlanta, who now is even looking at centralizing it even more in Washington, D.C. with the Common Core. And when you look at Common Core, I have no problem with education standards, but I do have a problem with somebody setting them from Washington, D.C. or somewhere else. We can set our own. And the only way we're going to turn around public education in this state, and I'm for education choice, but keep in mind, well over 90% of our kids are going to be educated in the public education system. The only way we're going to turn that around is get local communities involved again in their education system. We're not going to do that if all the power and all the roads are made out of Atlanta, Georgia, or Washington, D.C. We're not going to do that. We're going to get local people involved again. If we don't get local people involved again, I don't care what standards we come up with, we're not going to turn around public education. The third side of the E is ethics. And it's a different kind of ethics than what they were talking about in Atlanta and places. I'm not that worried about who's buying who lunch or dinner. The thing that I think promotes high ethical standards more than anything else is the same thing that the state legislature and the governor has pushed on local communities, which I'm for, which are open meetings. They should be under the same open meetings requirements that we're under. Local commissioners, councils, mayors, school systems, they should be under the same open meetings that we are. And when you look at the open meetings or whatever, and you shine lights on them, it's amazing how the behavior changes. When you look at some of the things, some of the worst bills that were passed in the states that were made, suddenly a secret committee meeting in a separate place in Capitol that our own representatives were not privy to. They come out with a recommendation or a bill. Our representatives were made to vote on it the last day or the last 2 days, and some of them had the courage to admit, I never even had time to read it before I voted on it. And that's where mistakes are made. We deserve better than that, and I can assure you if we had open meetings, toward the state legislature, if they couldn't do that, we would have far better legislation than what we have currently. The future of Georgia, without a doubt, when you look, it could be very bright again. I don't care what the national economy does. We've got to greatly outgrow the national economy to get ourselves out of this hole. Georgia should be a manufacturing center. And when you look at the 3 legs of the stool that create a really dynamic manufacturing center, and I know a little bit about that. Your senator does too, because Dalton is one of the last manufacturing centers left in Georgia, if not the country. But there are 3 legs to that stool. The first one, we do have a very strong leg, which is the infrastructure. We've got a great port. We've got a great airport in Atlanta. We have the best interstate system in the South. Not very well maintained at the moment, but the best interstate system in the South. The best railroad network in the South, Georgia Tech, great technical schools. We're strong right now when it comes to an infrastructure standpoint. Great utilities, and I think, I know there's a little bit of rumbling right now concerned about the nuclear power plant expansion, plant local. That's going to end up being a home run for Georgia, because there's no cheaper way to produce electric power than nuclear power. And the other ones that have been held up is going to give us an advantage once that one comes online in 2015 or 2016. So the infrastructure is there. The second part of the stove is a little bit wobbly, which is the education side of that. We've got a great university system, technical school system, that's cost has gotten out of control. Over the last 5 years, the net cost of Georgia kids to go to college has grown by 77%, almost twice the next closest state to us. We are pricing college and technical education out of our local kids' pocketbooks. We've got to change that. Our K-12 system is struggling though. We've got to do something about that. I already touched on that. The way to turn that around is decentralizing more and more of the control back to local communities. Will there be losers? There's no doubt there will be some losers, but there will be a lot more winners than losers. And right now we've got a system that's one big loser. One of the things we're doing in Dalton, really without any control, is we started a program called Readers to Leaders. We're getting the kids as soon as they're born, giving them experiences there. We've hired a full-time employee with the University of Georgia's help to really head up that program, because we got so many of our kids, as Georgia kids are coming from single parent and very poor households. They're not getting the same experiences that our kids do. And, we need to give those kids as much experience as ours have, because they start behind when they start pre-K, which is amazing to me, but they're already behind when they start pre-K. So we've got to improve that leg of the stool. The last leg of the stool, which should be the easiest one to improve, is the tax structure itself in Georgia. Right now, we do not have a competitive tax structure. Our income tax is far too high. We have the 10th highest income tax in America. We're ranked 34th by the Tax Foundation in business taxation overall. And when you're this far behind economically, you better rank in the top 10 as Tennessee does if we expect to be able to turn ourselves around there. There's other things that need to happen as far as that's concerned. One of our big problems where more and more of our budget has been eaten up is through Medicaid. Well, Medicaid's eaten up when you have a lot of poor people. One of the best ways to reform Medicaid is this way. Number one, if we get the economy growing above trend again, particularly with good manufacturing jobs that come with benefits, you get more and more people off Medicaid. The second part of that is tort reform and malpractice reform. Georgia spends about $14 billion a year on tests, unneeded tests, ordered by doctors who admitted, 82% of the doctors in Georgia admitted they practice preventive medicine because they don't like being sued. And they're ordering unneeded tests to prevent that from happening. It's costing us $14 billion a year, which is about $1,200 for every man, woman, and child in Georgia. If we could have comprehensive tort reform, not only would we reduce the cost of Medicaid, but we would also reduce the cost of private insurers, which once again would augment Georgia becoming a manufacturing powerhouse that it can. We have everything here to do that. We got to have the will to do that. This is probably our last chance in Georgia over the next few years to get this done. We're governed by limited government Republicans. They should be for this. They should vote for this. This should be approved. We had the same chance in Washington, D.C. from 2000, I guess it was, through 2006, when we're told both houses of Congress and the White House was supposedly governed by limited government Republicans. But they didn't govern as limited government Republicans, and we blew a chance for a lifetime of truly shrinking the size of government, getting the private sector going again, where we would dominate the world. We wouldn't be worried about China. Just like Georgia, we shouldn't worry about competing with Tennessee, Florida, South Carolina. We didn't worry that much about it in the 80s and 90s. If we reform our state government back to a limited but effective government, take the necessary steps, which are bold moves, this state can get moving again. Thank you.